Today's read aloud is part of our Jason Chin author study. It's called Redwoods by Jason Chin. Its call number is 585 Chin. This book was also a Red Clover nominee 2011. You can see the book's illustrations start on the end pages, where a young boy waiting for a train notices a book that was left behind on the bench. The title page shows that he picks it up and starts reading. The book is, of course, Redwoods by Jason Chin. As the boy walks towards his train, he begins to read. The coast redwoods are among the oldest trees in the world. Their ancestors lived about 165 million years ago during the Jurassic period. The boy who's reading on the train now doesn't notice that the Jurassic period dinosaurs are shown out the window of the train. But we, the readers, get to see that. One tree can live for more than 2,000 years, which means there are trees alive today that first sprouted during the Roman Empire. And our main character is surrounded by two people who look to be from very historic times, certainly not from today's times. Redwoods have shallow root systems that travel more than 100 feet from the tree. They help the trees stand, and they need all the help they can get because, and in the illustrations we notice those roots are coming through the ceilings of the train station as he makes his way up to the exit. They are the tallest living things on the planet. Redwoods regularly grow to be more than 200 feet. And as he leaves the train station, the look of surprise on his face as he looks up from his book and realizes he is in the center of a redwood forest. A redwood trunk can be 29 feet in diameter at its base. That's so wide that a tunnel can be cut in it, big enough for a car to drive through. And it's a good thing the boy cuts short because, whoom, there goes a car right through the center of the redwood tree right next to him. Amazingly, such a small tree starts from a seed about the size of a tomato seed. A 1-inch long cone that houses the seed falls to the ground, and if the conditions are right, the tree will sprout. With enough light and water, a redwood sapling can grow fast, up to 2 feet per year. In the illustration on this page, we notice that the small tree and the cone he's holding are against a large tree in the background, presumably an adult redwood tree. We also notice that his book is now closed, so what he's learning is just what he's experiencing around him. Redwoods also grow from other redwoods. When a tree falls or is cut down, new trees can sprout from big round masses along its trunk called burls. Often several trees will grow from the burls on one stump. If you see a ring of redwoods in the forest, they probably all sprouted from the same stump. And notice that he and the squirrel that accompanied him on the last page are now standing in a stump surrounded by tiny beginning redwood trees. Notice how large that stump is compared to him. One reason that redwoods are able to live for so long and grow to be so tall is that they are very good at defending themselves. Their wood contains a lot of tannin, a chemical that protects them from fungal infections and insect infestations. Redwoods are also well suited to live through fire. And the boy has a look of shock on his face, as does the squirrel who's still joining him. If there is a fire, their extremely thick bark shields them from the heat, just like the heat-resistant tiles on a space shuttle. Their branches don't start until very high up, 200 feet in some cases, which also helps protect them from fire, since most forest fires can't reach their needles. And the boy and the squirrel both run, both in danger from fire and smoke, it looks like. Even if a fire penetrates a redwood's bark, the tree can still live. In some cases, a huge portion of the center of the trunk has been burned out, but the tree keeps on growing. In many ways, Fires actually help redwoods by clearing out other plants that would otherwise compete for resources like water and soil. In this illustration, the boy finds shelter and safety in the trunk of a redwood whose insides look like it's survived a fire as smoke starts clearing around him. Coast redwoods need a lot of water to grow as tall as they do, and the area in Northern California where they live is perfect. It's a rainforest. The air is cool and damp, and the land is often covered in thick fog. It takes a long time for water to travel all the way from the roots to the top of a redwood. And the fog helps the trees by preventing them from losing moisture to evaporation. In addition, the needles of a redwood can absorb moisture straight from the air. This illustration shows us the hazy fog around the redwoods and the droplets of water on the ends of their branches. In the summer, when there is much less rainfall, redwoods have an ingenious way of collecting water. They make their own rain. When the fog rolls in, it condenses on the redwood's needles, and whatever moisture isn't absorbed then falls to the ground to be soaked up by the tree's roots. Other plants that live at the base of a redwood tree use this artificial rain as well. So not only do the redwoods water themselves, they water all the plants around them. In this illustration, the boy looks like he's getting rained on, like a rainstorm, but it's really the water that the redwood doesn't need on its top branches that trickle downwards to the roots and the surrounding wildlife. The branches of a redwood are called the crown or canopy and start very high up the trunk. To study redwood crowns, scientists have to climb into them, and this is not easy. Because the trees are so tall, researchers use a bow and arrow to launch a rope over the branches. When the rope is secure, they can pull themselves up. It is very dangerous work. The 4 panel illustrations here show the boy finding materials and resources needed to learn about climbing and then going and doing it himself. When the needles fall off of a redwood, they decay and turn to soil, and redwoods are so big that this soil often collects in the trees themselves. Soil that collects in the branches of a tree or in crevices on its trunk provides a home for other plants. Plants that grow on redwoods are called epiphytes. The most common epiphytes found in redwoods are ferns. In one tree, researchers found a mass of ferns weighing more than 1,600 pounds. That's heavier than a full-grown polar bear. Our illustrations here show the boy climbing his way up the redwoods towards the canopy, as if he's a mountain climber. Ferns are not the only plants that make their homes in redwoods. Mosses, fungi, bushes, and even trees grow in the redwood canopy. Researchers have found a wide variety of trees high above the ground, including hemlocks, spruces, firs, oaks, and California bays. In one redwood, researchers found a California bay tree growing out of a knothole over 300 feet from the ground. In addition to plant life, scientists have found many animals living in the redwood canopy, including flying squirrels, beetles, earthworms, centipedes, spiders, salamanders, and yellow banana slugs. Some animals, like red tree voles, live their whole lives in the treetops and never see the ground. Many birds live in the tops of redwoods, including bald eagles, ospreys, and woodpeckers. The marbled murrelet and the northern spotted owl live almost exclusively in the oldest redwood trees and are both endangered species. When a redwood is injured, a tree will often sprout new trunks that look like miniature versions of the tree itself. If a branch is dangered, a new trunk will grow straight up from the top of the damaged branch. Sometimes more than one new trunk will sprout. Researchers found one tree with more than 200 reiterated trunks in it. There was a forest of redwoods growing atop a single tree. The crown of a redwood can be very complex. As the tree grows, its main branches and the branches of its new trunks crisscross and run into each other, forming a maze of growth. The crown can become so dense that from its interior you can't see the ground or the sky. Researchers have even gotten lost while exploring the crown. The largest of all redwoods are in a class of their own called titans. For a long time, the record holder for the tallest tree in the world was Stratosphere Giant, measuring a whopping 370 feet. Notice how small the boy looks while he's climbing the crown of this tree that is so very tall. But that record was broken in the summer of 2006 when researchers discovered Hyperion, a giant coast redwood rising 379.1 feet from the ground. And it's still growing. And our boy waves goodbye as the flying squirrel, who served as his companion in the redwoods, flies beyond the canopies. That's 6 stories taller than the Statue of Liberty. And the boy begins to climb down the redwood's branches. It's taller than a 30-story skyscraper. And we see what a redwood would look like between 2 buildings in New York City. It's so tall that if it were introduced to a city skyline, it would fit right in. And as the boy notices the time on his watch, he springs from the bench where he's sitting, leaving the redwood book behind, just like when he found it on the bench by the train. Again, it's picked up by another reader, and she makes her way into the redwood forest, transporting herself from the city as she reads. The final page, with the heading of Redwoods in Danger, shows her fingers gripping the book as she begins to read and experience the redwoods too.